I don't know what your guys' rebuilding Glorians experience has been, but for me, it's kind of been the tale of Gil-Galad running rampant over pretty much every other commander in the game. So I wanted to take a moment and make part 2 of Faramir is actually insane and talk about how you can use Faramir to fight back against Gil-Galad. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. I want to go ahead and start things off by saying that, in my opinion, you do need Faramir to be Respect 10 or above and have the Ranger's Cape unique item in order for him to be competitively viable, and this is because the Ithilien Ambush trait on this cape is incredibly powerful. For the first 2 rounds of combat, Faramir and allied ranged units gain initiative, which means they get to go first in those rounds of combat, and they get a damage boost. This is very, very important for helping Faramir gain an early lead in these fights and then kind of snowball from there. If you don't have him at Respect 10 or above, or you don't have the Ranger's Cape yet, I don't think that he's super competitively viable, at least not against a commander as powerful as Gil-Galad. So let's go ahead and move on to talk about his skill tree. Thankfully, Faramir is quite a straightforward commander. For PvP and even taking tiles, the Last Steward tree is useless. It's only going to help you do tips, so just never put any points in that unless the only thing your Faramir ever does is tips. You'll want to max out the Rangers of Ithilien tree. This is going to also provide you with initiative on round 4 of combat, since it's going to go off on round 1, and then it's going to be on cooldown on rounds 2 and 3. So in 3 of the first 4 rounds of combat, Faramir can provide his army with initiative. You'll then want to max out the guide tree. Armed Escort is somewhat optional. I like taking the points there. If you don't like Armed Escort as a skill, that's fine. You don't have to take these points. But most important against commanders like Gil-Galad and even Gandalf the Grey, since he has quite a lot of avoidance, is you'll want to take Foresight. This goes up to a 70% chance for your units to gain Pursuit each round. That Pursuit will allow them to hit Gil-Galad's units, even though Gil-Galad has that Omega Evasion for the first 2 rounds of combat. If you run an accessory that has Pursuit, you can actually skip running Foresight, but if you want to use a different accessory, then put points into Foresight. After that, any extra points can go into Air as well as Nobility. If you have Faramir at a ridiculously high respect level, you can just dump whatever points remain in Gallant. But otherwise, I don't think that Gallant is worth it. We'll move on and talk about itemization. My Faramir right now has nothing because he's not Respect 10 yet. But in general, I think the best item that you can give him as far as purple items go, my videos tend to always focus on purple equipment because that is applicable to like 95+% of players. Most people that play this game cannot afford to give all of their commanders gold gear in every single slot. But you'll want to get a ranged Might Mirkwood bow. This gives ranged army attack as well as a % damage increase to your ranged units. The chest slot should be the Ranger's Cloak, as I talked about a minute ago. I don't think Faramir is super competitively viable without his unique item. For the helm slot, the good budget option is the Trapper's Hood. This can have Hysteria or even Ranged Vigor. Hysteria, I feel like, has been losing a lot of value these days because so many people are running Anti-Madness helms. So Ranged Vigor is definitely a fine option there. And in the accessories slot, you have the option of running something like a Wizard's Fireworks with Hunter's Mark. This will save you 7 points on your skill tree, as you won't need Hunter's Mark and Foresight. Or you could run something like Wizard's Fireworks with Bane of Mounted Units. Either way, I think you're really going to want the Wizard's Firework because it provides an additional attack boost to your ranged units. And with Faramir, the type of commander he is, he's going to be about hitting super hard in the first couple of rounds of combat while he has initiative and while Guide is active. That way his army is immune to stuns, it has a massive damage boost thanks to guide and thanks to his unique item. So you want as much attack on those ranged units as possible. And we will move on to talk about potential army compositions on him. Thankfully, it's also quite straightforward. The most straightforward army composition, in my opinion, would be cataphracts with double ranged units. In general, I would recommend sentinels and sharpshooters. Unless for some reason you need to do some killing of trolls, then you can include bow knights. However, sentinels and sharpshooters are better than bow knights against anything that is not a large target. That's why I would lean towards those units specifically. If you are Arnor, like I am, you can just run triple ranged unit, run Ranger of the North plus Sentinel plus Sharpshooter. But overall, what you're going to be wanting to do with Faramir is pretty similar to the ranged Gandalf the Grey build, although much more glass cannon-y. You just want to pump up 2 to 3 ranged units to do as much damage as possible. If you don't have access to Arnor's tier 4s, I would put Cataphracts or Guardians, or potentially Guards of the Tower if you happen to be fighting a lot of cavalry. Put some tanky melee unit in front of them, and then just let those ranged units absolutely shred during the early rounds of combat, and hopefully you'll snowball your way to victory from there. Faramir isn't the type of commander, I'm not going to lie to you, he's not the type of commander that is going to be able to go against absolutely anyone, but I do think that he has some pretty significant advantages against Gil-Galad and Gandalf the Grey, and potentially even Grima. Gil-Galad and Gandalf the Grey being very popular commanders in the current metagame. That's why I wanted to go ahead and give you guys this video. That's it for this one. Catch you in the next one. Phoenix, over and out.